I want to thank everyone for coming out in this warm weather. It's beautiful outside. I want to start by thanking our teams, our worship team for leading us in through worship, our ushers, our tech team that helps me with all the video. Very importantly, our pastoral team who continues to encourage and support and allow us to do services like this. My immediate personal encourage team, my mom and Rich that are here, bring it down a little. Bring down the game. Today is Super Bowl Sunday, if you don't know. If you don't know, it happens. It happens. Not everybody's as cool. It's Super Bowl Sunday, and it's a culmination of 32 teams playing and 2 teams ending up on this championship day game. It's something that's seen, it's the biggest sporting event in the country. And we do a service like this not to promote the NFL, not to promote sports, but to promote Jesus at a time where everybody's attention is on that. Well, let's grab a little bit of that attention since we already have their attention because they're ready to hang out, and we just give them something to do before the next 6 hours and a half before that game starts. We've been doing this for over a decade now, and it seems to be like a good service. I try. It's not easy, but love doing it, excited to do it, very excited to do it. Today is the Patriots against the Seahawks. I don't care about either team, to be honest with you. If I'm going for somebody, it'll probably be the Seahawks. Take the monitor down a little. It'll probably be the Seahawks, because I don't want to see the Patriots win again. But I don't like the Seahawks winning because they're in our division, and I don't want them to have that over us. And I say us because I'm part of that. But that's what it is. Seahawks, they played about 10 years ago, and it was a big Super Bowl that ended very controversial because for those of you who are on Wednesday, the guy that was speaking that day, he was a very famous running back, big guy, strong guy. And the game ended on a play where normally that team would give him the ball, the Seahawks, and he would just go in literally 1 yard, which is maybe half of this. And the coach got a little cute, tried to trick everybody what he was going to do, and decided to pass the ball instead of throw it. It got intercepted. The other team won. Crazy. So they're playing again today. We'll see what happens. But, you know, things happen. Things happen. Today I wanted to... Today's message is going to be hope in the midst of failure. 31 teams at the end of tonight will have failed this season. That's a fact. But not all 31 teams will consider the season a failure. My key verse for today is Jeremiah 29:11. And it reads, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you and Amen." So how are we going to do this? Well, you know me. I like to kind of break things down and understand what we're talking about. So the first thing I want to break it down is some words in my title, which is hope and failure and also wish. We're going to go with hope first. Definition of hope. To cherish a desire with anticipation. To desire with expectation of attainment or fulfillment. To expect with confidence. Desire accompanied by expectation of obtaining what is desired or belief that it is obtainable. Simple enough. I want to show wish, though. Let's get the definition of wish. To have a desire for an expressed will or desire. Can somebody tell me the difference in the two? Can you put the first one back up? What word do we see here that constantly desires one, anticipation, but there's one word that changes a hope from a wish? That's a lot of words. There's one word. Belief, that's one word, right? With. The hope is not a hope if you don't believe it could happen. There has to be an expectation of attainment. Confidence. Expectation of attaining what is desired or belief that it is attainable. If you don't have that belief, then it's just let's go to wish. Wish. A desire, an expressed desire. Happy birthday, blow out the candles, I wish for $1 million. You do nothing to try to get the $1 million. You do nothing to try to obtain that $1 million. You just hope the next day you have $1 million. That's not how hope works. At least not the way I'm going to teach it today. So hope, different from wish. But very importantly, let's look at failure. Failure is often associated with losing. Many of us have gone through this, and many of us have probably heard this in our lives where somebody else has considered us a failure, or told us you're a failure, or you feel like you're a failure because you didn't achieve certain things, and it seems to be the end of all, that nothing else can happen after that, that this is it, you failed, it's over, think of something new. But if you look at the definition, it says omission of an occurrence or performance, a fracturing or giving way under stress, a falling short, an abrupt cessation of normal functioning. Let's break it down. It's just a time in your life where you didn't reach your goal. But we take that very personally. People go to extreme therapy over being failures. But that's not really the definition. That's what we put on ourselves. It's telling you it's just an omission of occurrence. You forgot that you didn't have a chance for this to happen. A fracturing or giving way, meaning something happened, some stress caused you to stop what you were doing, to fail you from succeeding to your goal. A falling short, fall short of the goal. An abrupt cessation of normal functioning. What does that mean? That means something in your life stopped your normal functioning. An event, a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one. Something stopped what you did on a normal basis. That's failure. And until we start to take the power back from our words, we're not going to get to where we need to get to. So we need to understand when we say hope in the midst of failure, that failure is not the end. It's just a falling short. There's a famous quote by Thomas Edison about the light bulb. And there's a lot of controversy about the quote. I'm not going to get into the history of it. I just want to give you the basics and the meaning behind it. And it was that Thomas Edison was asked by a reporter, and the number varies, how does it feel to have failed 1,000 times in trying to create the light bulb? Thomas Edison looked at him and said, I didn't fail 1,000 times in making a light bulb. I found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. You want hope in the midst of failure? This is the attitude adjustment you need to have. That failure isn't the end. That failure is not where it stops. Failure is just where you pivot and adjust. It's that mentality that sports teams and athletes must have. You cannot wallow in where you're at in your failure. There's actually no time for that in sports. It has to be an immediate adjustment and pivot. Because if not, you will not be in the league for very long. If you're worried about your performance and you're worried about what you did and you think that you can't change that around, you won't be around much longer. So what are we going to do? I'm going to do three things today. I want to do three things. I want to break down hope from an abstract feeling or emotion to something practical that we can live by. Number two, I want to see how that applies to sports. And then number three, we're going to see how this applies to our spiritual lives. Very simple. You know, I like to do practical things that you can leave here with to start working on today. So I looked at what the clinical world thinks of hope, psychologists. Like, how do they define hope? What do they say about hope? And it was very interesting because I found this guy named C.R. Snyder. It's Charles Snyder. And he came up with a hope theory. And in this theory, he said that hope is let's read it. Hope is defined as the perceived capability to derive pathways to the desired goals and motivate oneself via agency thinking to use those pathways. Unlike general optimism, or wish, Snyder's theory treats hope as a learned way of thinking rather than a passive emotion. Snyder was a professor in the University of Kansas. He was very accredited, had many degrees, and he uses this hope theory to teach with his patients. He was a psychologist. So I started to break this down and look at what it means. So let's look at the next slide. It's a lot of words, but we're going to break this down. He was best known for his work on hope and, interesting. The first thing about hope, he talked about forgiveness. And also developed theories explaining how people react to personal feedback, to the human need for uniqueness, and to the drive to excuse and forgive transgressions. Where do we hear that word in? What book? His theory of hope emphasizes goal-directed thinking, where a person uses both pathways thinking, the perceived capability to find routes to the desired goals, pathways to reach your goals, and agency thinking, the motivation, the necessary motivation to use these routes. His analysis of the motivational forces, excuse-making, and forgiveness allowed individuals to disconnect themselves from past negative experience and connect themselves to hope, the possibilities of the future. Back to the key verse, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you, and I wonder where he got this from. Key components. Let's go to the key components. So 1, he says goals. The target objective that provides direction for the cognitive process. Goals can be short or long-term, but must be valuable to the individual. Pathway thinking, way power. The perceived ability to generate workable routes to desired goals. Look at this. High hope individuals are adept at creating alternative routes if the original path is blocked. Agency thinking, the willpower. The motivation and belief in one's capacity to initiate and sustain movement along those pathways. This is the will to get it done. So I looked at his core principles. So what did this all mean? Well, he says this. Go to the next slide. Dynamic process. Hope is not a static trait, but a mental process that can be learned and cultivated. What does that mean? Learned and cultivated. It's something that you think of. It's something that you got to do. It's something that you got to keep going at over and over again. Keep going until you reach that goal. Where have I seen that before? Philippians 3:14. I press on towards the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Okay. Maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe. But it could still be, right? So we go to the second principle. Obstacles as challenges. Hopeful people view obstacles not as dead ends, not as the end of all, not as the failures, the end of your life, but as challenges to be overcome, often using them to fuel further agency. What is agency? Willpower, belief. So the challenges are fueling belief. Have I seen that before? Romans 5:3-4. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces... So maybe it's not such a bad thing you go through stuff. But this could still be a coincidence. Who knows? His last principle, high versus low hope. High hope people have multiple flexible pathways and high motivation. Low hope people often feel stuck, lack clear pathways, and have low motivation. Has anybody been there? If only we had a book that could help with that. Isaiah 40:31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Psychologists were using this theory and these principles when they're having their sessions to help people get through the worst times of their lives. I don't think it's a coincidence, or it may be a coincidence to Mr. Snyder, who's dead, by the way, so you can't ask him. But he may not have thought or knew where he was getting this from, and to him it could have been new news. But this has been around for a couple of thousand years. And he was charging a lot of money for you to go in and have these sessions. When you come to God, it's free. Pastor, maybe we should start charging to come in. I don't know. But it's free. And I'm not knocking therapy. Therapy is very much needed. But I think there are times where there are other things involved that we can go to this book instead of that appointment. Or at least use them together. But as you see, what you're going to that appointment for probably already came out of that book. So how do we apply this to sports? How do we apply this whole theory? How do we see that? Well, you have goals, you have pathways, and you have agency thinking, right? Belief. So this can go from organization to team to player. Organization. Let's look at the two teams in the Super Bowl. The New England Patriots last year only won 3 games. 3. They're in the Super Bowl this year. When they lost, there's something that's called Black Monday. I don't know, those who know sports know what Black Monday is. Black Monday is the day after the season ends. The next day is when teams start firing their coaches. You don't have a job. You don't have a job. Yeah, you definitely don't have a job. The next day, there is no time to wallow in the failure. We need to pivot and adjust. In their case, there's money involved. In our case, there's life involved. You have no time. So an organization, what do? They pivot and adjust. On an organizational level, what is the goal? To win the Super Bowl. What is the pathway? Well, they hire the coaches and the players to make sure they can implement that goal. What's the belief? The belief is I'm spending enough money for this to happen. I've hired the right coaches and we've hired the right players. Organizational level, goals, pathway, agency, GPA, you can think of it that way. Hope theory at work. Team, what does a team need? Goal, to win the Super Bowl. Pathways, to create plays for the players to win games. On the offensive side, on the defensive side. To get coaches that coach them, the quarterback's coach, the linebacker's coach, the offensive coach, the defensive coach, the special teams coach. There's a lot of people helping out. And you're trying to get them to where you need them to be, believing that the system you put in place, whether it's heavy running, whether it's heavy passing, whatever that is going to make you victorious in your games. For the organization, just to go back a second, the Seahawks 2 years ago fired one of their most prominent coaches they've ever had, who took them to a Super Bowl and won. They changed the quarterback that they had last year to this year, a quarterback that actually lost a playoff game last year, comes to this team, and now he goes to the Super Bowl. You don't have time to wallow in the failure. It's time to keep moving, keep pressing on. You want hope? You need to keep pressing on. You can't stay where you're at. That's not to say you can't mourn. That's not to say you can't be sad. We're human. It's to say you can't stay there. You can't stay there. The New York Football Giants. This is an up and down day. I'll be nice, guys. I'll be nice. They had some hope in the beginning of the year, right? Quarterback was looking good. Had this new running back, Scatterboo, was looking great. Started doing well, won a couple of games, boom, failure. What was the failure? Health failure. Scatterboo got hurt. Some other players got hurt. And then there was a skid. Down. Lose, 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 lose. My energy was win, win, win. But lose, 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 happy, happy, happy. Lose, lose, lose. And then you start to hear the Giants fans. And Giant fans are quick to use GPA. Change the quarterback, change the coach, change this, change that, blow up the stadium, whatever you need to do, get it done. Right? There's a lot of panic going on, but they're quick to change. And it was sad for Giant fans, happy for me. Sad for many Giant fans, it's getting bad, but then something happened. A glimmer of hope. They started thinking, well, the more we lose, the better our draft pick is. The better player we could get. And then there's that little crack of hope. Oh, wait a minute. We can do this. This can happen. And now they wanted them to lose games. which is what they do anyway, I don't know. But they wanted them to lose games because there's hope for the next year. Though this year was going to be a failure, there was already hope within the failing year to get it done next year. It's not going to happen, but to get it done next year. Patriots did it. You never know. You never know. Have hope. I don't. Have hope. Not for them. But they go and they do that. So what happens on Black Monday? Quarterback gets fired. The coach gets fired. And what do they get? One of the most decorated coaches in NFL history, John Harbaugh. You're the only one clapping. John Harbaugh. They got a great coach, and now the hope is sky high. Sky high. But the season was what? A failure. A bad failure in the sense because they wanted to win more games. It was a failure. Yet now, they're flying high. Players. A player has to have this quick adjustment. Their goal is to win the Super Bowl. This starts at childhood. Their pathways are many ways, right? You need a good support system, good coaches, pick good teams, pick good travel teams, pick a good high school, pick a good college. Like, you got to make sure you take the right pathways getting there. And their belief system is in themselves. And then the family and the friend support. But it's quick. It's got to be, you got to be turned around. If they fail in the season, well, now it's time to introspectively look. And what did I do that I failed? We often forget to do that. We're quick to blame God. We're quick to say it was because this happened, or this one happened, or that one was in my life, or this one was in my life. But we forget to look in the mirror and see, where do I have to adjust? Where do I have to pivot? Where do I have to change to bring hope in the midst of this failure? Sometimes you need to make honest changes with yourself. Sometimes you just really have to make the hard choices. But there needs to be a time of reflection and evaluating. We're going to look at this on a microcosm, GPA, in football. What goals, pathways, and agency looks like. We're going to start with the playbook. This looks like Angelique drew this. But this is an actual NFL play. How many people have no idea what's going on in this right now? Good. This looks like hieroglyphics, really. Looks like the ancient Egyptians put this together. X, Y, E, N, B, B. You have no idea what this means. Unless you study it. You study the playbook to understand how to run the play. You study the playbook to understand how to run the play. You study the word to understand how to, maybe you get it, live your life. So unless you've looked into the playbook and gone into the coaching sessions and listened to the teaching and ran and practiced the plays, you would have no idea what's going on. In this case, the quarterback is going to come back. The wide receiver is going to come around and take a handoff. Other wide receiver is going to come around and take that handoff. And he either has the option, the pathway, to throw the ball or run the ball. Looks complicated. Yeah. Let's show the first video.
Sky Moore again, little trickery. Who's thrown it before. Going deep with Caffrey. He's got it. Touchdown 49ers, but there's a...
Even the flag was gone. It was a touchdown. Don't worry about that. Even the Giant fans like this because we beat the Philadelphia Eagles, which they don't like. So, be happy I did that one. But show the play again, please. I just want you to see the complexity.
Who's thrown it before. Going deep with Caffrey. He's got it. Touchdown 49ers.
That was that play in work. That was that play live. What most fans don't know, that was in the fourth quarter that ended up beating the team, putting us ahead, and we were able to win that playoff game. What most people don't know is that he ran that same play in the third quarter. And in the third quarter, that play failed. Not only did it fail, it's a play that didn't even gain a lot of yards. So they call this what's called a trick play, which is kind of weird because every play should be a trick play. You're trying to trick the defense into not knowing what you're doing. But in this reason why they call it a trick play, it's because it's supposed to gain either a lot of yardage, a lot of field, or a touchdown. It's supposed to confuse the team so much that they run the ball further or throw the ball further or they get a touchdown. In the case of the first play, the team didn't even get a first down off the play, which is 10 yards. So they didn't even go 10 yards. It failed. But what happened was Kyle Shanahan, looked at the play, saw how the defense reacted, and he pivoted and adjusted. And he said, wait a minute. I saw what happened here. I saw what happened there. So his goal was the same, to get a touchdown and move the ball, but his pathways needed to change. How do I change what I did? How do I go from failing to succeeding? And the belief was that he knew the play was good. He knew it could work. He just knew he had to make an adjustment on it, and he knew they could score. Let's look at the second play. This is going to be a breakdown of what happened.
The table was set for it beforehand, though. Okay, this is going to be the second to last play in the third quarter. It's second down. A couple things to pay attention to. Number one, San Francisco and their shrunk split. Two things. Kyle takes this receiver. At the bottom, they go in jet motion, and they're going to hand the ball off to him. Two things to pay attention to. When this receiver goes in jet motion, does that defender, cornerback-wise, follow? Quinyon Mitchell follows
Play
him.
an adjustment.
Check for San Francisco to pay attention to. The second thing is Addison McCaffrey goes and makes that play fake, okay? After you hand the ball off to the jet sweep and McCaffrey's coming this way, does everybody on the defense pay attention
That's
to
the guy that caught the
jet
ball
sweep? You
on
got
the
vision
bottom.
here. They're all watching the receiver running with the football, and they have vacated this backside. So Kyle
So the
Shanahan's
adjustment,
like, okay,
he put him on the
I
top
just
the next
handed
time.
that jet sweep off, faked it to McCaffrey, no one paid attention.
That was the end of that
So
play.
that gets them to 3rd and 1. 3rd and 1, they're on the quarterback sneak. Quarter's over.
Quarter's over.
Between third quarter and fourth quarter, we had the conversation. Hey, remember when we
Adjustment.
hit that ball off the jet sweep? Everybody on Philly's defense was paying attention to the handoff. No one protected the backside. All right, so let's get into another shrunk down formation. Here comes the motion. Now, does that defender follow? When they run this jet sweep, does that defender follow? Absolutely. Okay, well, if they follow them, does that mean that the backside, after they do that, is it going to be paying attention
Next
to
adjustment.
the handoff? Absolutely. Now, this backside defense is paying attention because the last time they did it, they handed it off. Is anybody left in the deep half of the field? The deep third of the field? Absolutely not. McCaffrey, look at the Eagles defense. They're all looking
Next
here.
adjustment.
They're
He
all
ran it
looking
before.
here.
He didn't throw it.
No one's paying attention to the most important San Francisco 49er left onto the field. Jennings fakes
And
it.
he's all
no one's
alone.
Deep third for the Philadelphia Eagles defense. It's a great throwing catch. This catch by Christian McCaffrey.
A great catch.
You can't find some of the best wide receivers in the NFL to make that catch, but Christian McCaffrey can. But the awareness of Kyle Shanahan to run that jet sweep at the end of the third quarter, realize that Philadelphia was not paying attention to McCaffrey, and then to come back in the perfect moment to start the quarter.
Perfect
wins the
moment.
football game.
Pivot and adjust. Took the same play, changed it around a little. It was the same players. It was the same concept. But he gave himself different pathways to create the goal. Microcosm of how this works. So how do we apply this to our lives? Goals. We said that goals are your desires with expectation. And when we submit those goals to God and we align ourselves with Him, you have a greater chance of not failing. Proverbs 16:9. In their hearts, human plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Your goals have to be aligned with His steps. You want hope in the midst of failure? What are you hoping for? You may have to check that first. What's your hope? What are you looking at? What are you trying to get to? Because when you align it with Him, He establishes your steps. Pathways. You have to be ready to adjust and pivot. You have to have a relationship with God. Proverbs 3:5. Trust 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make straight to the goal. If you use His pathways, it'll be like Shanahan in the second play. If you use your pathways, it'll be like Shanahan in the first play. There's a difference when you use his pathways and when you just try to lean on your own understanding. You have to be able to pivot and adjust with God. You have to be in tune with him and hear his spirit to know, which way am I going to go? Which way am I going to run? What am I going to do, Lord? What was I doing wrong this time that'll help me be right this time? It's that honest look in the mirror, because we're quick to change everything else but the problem. Kyle Shanahan could have changed everything, the players, the quarterback, and try to run it all different ways. We said, no, this is going to work if we just run it correctly. He just had to make that little adjustment. Agency. You want hope in the midst of failure? Then your hope better be based on God and not on yourselves. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things and the evidence of things not seen. Substance in its origin in Latin means stand firm. In Greek, it means being or essence, and there's another word that means standing under. So if we turn this sentence around, where faith is the substance of things hoped for, and we use stand firm, hope is standing firm on your faith in God. I try not to make things difficult. God doesn't make it difficult. Hope is you standing firm on your faith in God. How strong and firm is your faith in God? That's the self-reflection you have to have. Is your faith standing firm on a God that saved you, that loves you, that has your back? How Pastor said it last week, that not only walks beside you, but in front of you, to the side of you, above you, below you, behind you. Are you putting your hope in that God? Because when you put your hope in him, it's the evidence of things you haven't seen yet to happen. You have to have a relationship with God. You have to have a strong foundation. You have to be rooted in him. One amazing thing was that if you looked at Charles Snyder's theory, was that it needed forgiveness. Our hope begins with his forgiveness. Our hope started when we were able to be saved and disconnect ourselves from our past failures and connect ourselves to his hope and plans for a future. Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. In 2019, we started a theme called Rooted. And it was getting a strong foundation in God. Little did we know the world was going to change shortly after. And God already had us on that pathway. And in 2021, we asked the Lord to speak because we didn't know what was going on. In 2020, I should say. In 2020, God asked us to look again, to see what was going on in our lives. He paused, there was a cessation to normal functioning. And he said, hold up. What is important in your life? What are you looking at? What are you going by? Who are you following? And when God told us next year, we said, all right, speak, Lord. Let us know what's going on. And God said, I'm going to speak. You need to reset. You need to change everything. Change your thinking. Change how you think about me, who I am, and what I represent. And what did he tell us he represented? He said, for me, love matters. Love your neighbors. It's love, not division. Love. Not the left, not the right. It's love. I'm about love. Understand that. Make that matter to you. And when we allowed that to matter to us, it captivated us. Now, we're in His glory. We're in His presence. We understand that our job here on earth is to spread love to everybody there. And when we were able to re-evaluate our lives and change our pathway and pivot, we found out that standing on our unshakable faith in Him made us stronger than ever. And when we were able to stand on the God that saved us, the God that took away our sins on the cross, that healed our sicknesses and diseases, the God that brings you through every day, the God that keeps you healed, the God that keeps you employed, the God that feeds you, that clothes you, that keeps you warm at night when the weather's like this. It's standing firm on knowing that He has your back, that you're the head and not the tail. It's standing firm and knowing that through Him all things are possible, that He has plans for you, plans and a future. And we end up here today knowing that no matter what happens, standing on an unshakable faith, that there is always, always hope in the midst.